Yeah.
Side note, so what is the thing for today? I don't know. I'll let you read this today. I've
Oh,
I've always got something
wow.
to say, so it's your turn.
Okay. So where do I want to start?
Like you like how I delegated there?
Yeah, that was clever. Yeah, that was good. This is how um our script is revealed in the podcast because we have no idea what we're supposed to talk about.
We,
Totally winging
we,
it.
we can name our podcast We Don't Know. Take a listen.
Yeah,
You might get something.
yeah. Um, I was writing I was writing yesterday about why is it so hard to be thoughtful of your thoughts? And I was talking with Angie about it yesterday. We went for a walk together and just to catch up and I said, it's I some days I really struggle with all of the stuff that we talk about all the time and I write about it and I speak about it and it's like, being intentional. And the Bible talks about take every thought captive and to just be mindful of your thinking and to think about what's true and noble and right and excellent and praiseworthy. And there's verses all through Scripture that tell us about being careful of what we think, because how a man thinks, so he is. I mean, it's everywhere in Scripture, right? And so I aspire to be good at that or growing in that. And geez, there's just sometimes when I feel like, why is this so hard? When my default wants to be just really lazy or easily distracted, and I find myself, 20 minutes into mindlessly scrolling Facebook or something. I'm like, what are you doing? I have all of these things that I would rather be doing or should be doing, and here I am wasting the time or being lazy or, you know, eating another snack, or it's just like, come on. I know all of the right answers, right? I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and yet here I am riding the struggle bus because it's really hard. So, I mean, we know what the answer is. You've just got to be conscious about it and think about your thinking and then choose in alignment with your values and convictions. I mean, we know all of these things, but doggone it, it's still hard.
Why do you think God put all those things in the Bible?
Yeah. Yeah, we obviously need more than one mention of it to keep us square.
Well, I think there's two things there, and you've hit on one. We need to be reminded, and we need to remind ourselves over and over again. We need to just make that a ritual. Okay, I'm back on this. I'm back on this. The other thing is that, and I just lost my train of thought. Isn't that funny?
Well, if it was scripted, you wouldn't have this problem. You just
Oh,
read
yeah.
off the
Well,
script.
yeah. There goes the script. Where's my teleprompter? Oh, my teleprompter's over there. I do
Yeah,
have one. It's right there.
nice.
Anyway, um, oh, what was it? Oh, I remember. The reason it's in the Bible is because we do need to be reminded. But the other thing is, and it's other places too. I mean, even philosophers have down the years, just
Oh, for sure.
why can't I get this right? Why can't I? Anyway, and I think it's evidence to us that everybody has this struggle. That was my second point.
Yeah.
And we forget that. We think we're alone in this struggle because, we're
Mm,
we're alone with our thoughts, and it can become this really nasty, vortex that just sucks us
yeah,
down. So
that is very
kind of
true.
builds on
Yes.
itself. So first of all, you're not alone.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, why do you think that is? We we make this decision, we remind ourselves, and we read philosophy or we read the Bible, we read both, we write statements, we do all this stuff, and okay, I'm going to get this system, and this calendar is going to help me, and I'm going to set all these
Mm,
alarms, and we do all this
yes.
stuff, and then we find ourselves mindlessly scrolling through Facebook, 20
Yeah.
minutes in, and have this reality. Wait a minute, where have I been the last 20 minutes? Why do you think we go back to that? Why?
Mm, uh, I don't know. I think part of it goes back to how we are made, and I want to be a little bit careful about that because at the same time we know that we're made in God's image and that God doesn't make mistakes and everything about us is according to his plan. Um, and so to say that there's a fault in how we are made
That's not the case.
that
I believe.
doesn't really jive.
Right.
But the reality is how we are made includes this ego element that upon some study we know is a real thing, and it's almost like um, I don't know. It's all in some regards I can consider it a separate thing from me, and it's inside of me, and it's always demanding attention. It always demands um, attention immediately and um, result immediately or satisfaction immediately, and in whatever fashion that looks like, and it manifests in 1,000 different ways and different for everybody. Um, but this part of us um, is a challenge for us to control. And I've done a lot of reading and study on the topic of ego and how that works. But I just think that um, God purposely put that in us to help us to be challenged to focus our attentions because it's just in us that we are easily distracted and commanding instant gratification. But maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know. That's just a thought.
No, I agree with you. I'm just sitting here thinking, there's two sides of a coin, and I actually keep a coin next to me here just to
Mm,
remind myself that there's two sides of one coin. And so you talk about ego, that's a coin in my brain. And so you've talked about one side where it distracts us. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. Here's a belief I have, and I totally agree with you. I think it comes down to choice. Do I choose this side or this side? Okay. I
yep.
really believe that it comes down to choice. But what I'm just going to throw this at you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I think God gave us ego, and his intention is that we direct it the right direction. I mean, his word and so forth is replete with that. Stay true, stay on this path. Stay here, and he
Yeah.
lets us know that there is the other side of the coin. And I'm not saying it's God and the devil necessarily, because I can give you examples, even in just daily life. Okay, but let's just run with this. Um, could it be that we were given ego so that we could point it the right direction and make it powerful, that as we choose
Yeah.
that side, that ego drives what we do? Because ego drives
Yeah.
us. Okay.
Yes.
And whether it's my wishes or God's wishes, um is a big deal, because I might be
Yes.
wrong. I know God won't be.
Yes.
That's why he's God. Okay. Is because he is truth. And so I think this has application. I'm sorry, I'm gonna make a run at things here for a second, because
Yeah. Go for it.
I used to have my children come to me and say, Dad, I want to do this. Why am I not getting these results?
Mm,
Okay. And I think we all suffer from this. I mean, individually, as a culture, as a people. I think we suffer from this, and I'll explain what I mean. And I used to tell them the parable of the petunia seeds. And I'm not even, I might have them. I used to have a package. It's probably in the other room in my gym. But I used to have a package of petunia seeds, and I would pull it out, and they would, oh, Dad, not the petunia seeds, because I'd gone through this. But I I remember, and I can't. It was at a camp out, and one of the leaders that was speaking talked about petunias, and for some reason it just clicked in my mind, and I was able to come up with this parable of the petunia seeds. He didn't do it. It just came in my mind while he was speaking. But we take a package of petunia seeds and we prepare the ground and we plant the seeds and we put it in there and we water it and we nurture it. We grow it, pull the weeds, do all the stuff. And when the flower comes up, we expect a rose.
Yeah.
Okay. And,
Yeah.
so sometimes shortcutting things or trying to do it I love innovation. The word innovation,
Mm,
it's a great word, but I think you innovate the systems and the processes. You don't innovate the principles.
yeah.
Okay.
I like that. Yeah.
We innovate the systems and processes, but we don't innovate the principles because the principles are they just exist. Okay. Gravity, if I use it right, it works really well for me. I can fly to your house because one of the forces that is required for an airplane to fly is gravity. Okay. And if I use the principle the correct way, it will work. Okay.
Yes.
Now, if I jump off a cliff because I identify as one who is not affected by gravity, and I'm very strong in my opinion, and I've blogged about it, and I don't believe in gravity. I don't identify with that. I identify with flight, and I step off of a cliff. By the way, I'm standing on a cliff right there.
Yes. I like that picture very much. Yeah, that's cool.
Um, Gravity is going to work, whether I identify with it or not. Okay.
Yeah.
So I used to talk about the petunias, and I would say, are you planting petunia seeds or are you planting rose seeds? You're expecting a rose. What are you planting?
Yeah.
Now, I can innovate the watering. I can innovate the weed control. I can innovate the preparation of the soil. I can do all that. But if I don't plant rose seeds, I will not get a rose.
Mm, profound.
I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense, and it's so simple, right?
But yeah,
And obvious when you say it, but yet here we are living contrary to something that's
right.
so simple and obvious.
And I read a piece by a guy the other day. He was bumping up against this on a different subject, and he said, it's interesting. People live this other way, and it doesn't make them bad. Sometimes we're identified bad. In fact, I need to give a speech and answer some questions that have come from some of the people that I volunteer for in our church. So we sent out the invitation, send in any questions that you might have that we can
Hmm.
answer for you. And some of the questions are, they want to plant petunia seeds and get roses. That's
Yeah, yeah.
And so I've been doing a little bit of study on this, and this guy, it's a great piece. I would recommend it, but he says, people choose to live different ways from the principles, and it doesn't make them bad. They just had that choice. They have allowed their ego to take them that
Mm,
direction. Okay. And it doesn't make them bad. Sometimes we label them as bad, especially in today's culture. Well, you don't think like I do. Well, you hate me. You're bad.
yeah, right.
Okay. He says that's not the case because principles just exist. They're true, and truth it just exists. Okay, you and I can all the thinking we can't
Yeah,
undo gravity. Okay, it's just
yeah,
true.
right.
And what he said is they're not bad, they're just wrong.
Mm, yeah.
And you can be wrong and not be bad. You've just
Yeah.
chosen wrongly. And if you want these results, you got to plant rose seeds and not petunia
Mm.
seeds. Anyway, there's my little
No, yeah, that it
there's
fits. It
there's
fits.
my little thing. But your point about ego, I think you're right on. But I think it comes down
Yeah.
to what direction do I want to aim my ego? Because it's
Yeah.
powerful
Oh,
either
I
way.
like that. Yes. It the principle is the compound effect, right?
Mhm.
You're going to
Of,
um
of whatever
you're
direction you go.
whatever way you go, that's going to compound. So the trick is, I think for me in this instance of our thinking, is to recognize what is happening as soon as possible, so that you don't end up all the way down this trail that you never intended to go, and then have to turn around and come all the way back to get, on the right path or whatever. So
Yeah. And
um,
don't you think it's just being conscious of where you
yeah,
are?
yeah. And I think we're just not very good at that because, uh, well, for a thousand reasons perhaps, but you know, life is hard, and there's a lot of stressors, and some of them are real, some of them we put on ourselves unnecessarily. But when we get in those kind of situations, I feel like our body's reaction to that is escape, and escape comes from, or leads to, solutions like distraction or laziness, or running away, or running to something else, the refrigerator, or
I deserve this chocolate.
yeah, or so yeah, I read, there's a fascinating, very small book, by Tim Keller, who's a pastor who has recently passed, but he wrote this book that's called The Freedom of Self-Forgetfulness.
I think you
And
sent that to me.
did I send that to you? I bought a bunch of copies and shared them with people that I thought might find it interesting. And it's a tiny little book. It's about 60 pages. It probably amounts to a sermon that he did, or maybe a series of sermons. Yeah, there you go.
Thank
And
you. Yeah, you sent it to
yeah,
me.
he talks about ego in there. And one of the fascinating things about it that has really stuck with me, and honestly, I have to remind myself of, when I started here a few minutes ago about how hard it is to, control our thoughts and whatever, is, Keller says that we need to be able to regard our ego as fully part of ourselves, but really not any different than our toes or our elbow. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? And he says, we don't really ever think about our toes or our elbow unless there's something wrong, unless it's hurting, then we pay attention to it. Well, guess what? Our ego is always hurting because it's bloated, and it's, you know, incessantly looking for attention because it's hurting. But if we can put that aside and just let it be, let it do its thing, or even better yet, to your point, steer it into something that's very positive and let it drive us that way, then the power of its pull is virtually eliminated. Just like I'm not thinking about my elbow. It just does what it's
It
going to do.
works. Yeah.
It works. It works. I'm moving on. So he does a really great job of explaining it, far better than I am. But the idea is that
Yeah.
yes,
I
we can deal with this part of ourselves in a healthy and positive way. but it does take some education perhaps, and then of course the choosing.
Yep. I need to read this again. It's been a while, but it is good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
No, I love that. So, okay, the challenge for today is to direct our ego in the right direction, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't need all the attention that it clamors for. So just leave it be, and steer it to the things that align with our values and convictions, and press fully into that.
One thing as part of my study, one thing that's really stood out is the word intention.
Mm.
Living with intent, and this discussion has flowed well with that, because if
Yeah.
I aim my ego in the right direction, I have to do it with intention and have the right
Right.
intent. And I think a good piece of that is we've got to make a choice of what direction we're going. We have to choose.
Yes. Yeah. You can't get away from the choices, and um, sometimes
Usually
that can
doesn't
be
work,
overwhelming. Yeah. Yeah.
and it is
But
overwhelming. You're right.
we also make it too hard. I mean, speaking for myself, I come up with all kinds of ways to analyze it, or complicate it, or whatever, but just,
Innovate it.
yeah, innovate it. But man, if I just know what the right principles are, in that I'm thoughtful of my thoughts, and I'm choosing in alignment with what's my convictions and values, then I really shouldn't have a whole lot to worry about.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yep. Well, cool. Well, I better let you run. This has been great. It's always great.
Yeah.
I hope this
There,
touched
take
on
that,
things you
podcast
learned.
world. We just rocked a script and we didn't even plan it.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, no, I think we did. I think we rocked it. So thank you.
Yeah,
I have.
likewise.
So the challenge is make a choice, be intentional, and direct your ego,
Yeah,
and be conscious of the
yeah.
direction you're going.
And it's normal. It's normal that we're
It
going to
is
have
normal.
these troubles.
Yep.
And I think for any men who might ever hear this message, I say it especially to you, that you are not alone, and it's normal. And there's also a way. There's a way through it.
Yep.
So.
Absolutely.